All right, let me expand this. Let me go big. Okay, this is somewhat bigger. Hi, guys. My name is Ella Ivy. I'm the founder and creator of Livzenastrology. And I wanted to pop on here because I want to discuss this upcoming transit of the eclipse. We are in eclipse season right now. And what I was drawn this, if you're new to the channel, first of all, welcome. This is a little bit of a different take on astrology. We consider ourselves more of a metaphysical astrology channel. When I started off back learning astrology, gosh, I took my first class back in 2005, but I was first introduced into astrology from 2003. I was into mundane astrology, right? Which is kind of like what most astrologers use as predictive astrology. But in the time and space that we are now, considering we are going into no time, especially with Neptune conjunct Saturn, we are transcending. We really don't know what's happening. Everything we're really kind of coming out of the time loop and moving into more of the now and the present. So what this particular channel was focusing on, what my guides were telling me to, is to focus on the now, but focus on the symbols. Because if you're drawn to astrology or metaphysics or anything esoteric, there's something within you that wants to connect to the energies. And you already have it within your DNA, right? So you already have these energies within you. And I wanted to share some of the astrology that we're looking at because with this eclipse season that's approaching, what I found very interesting and what I was looking at when I was, what I found fascinating is 6 months ago on September 7th, we had a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. Okay. Dog. Okay, here we go. Oh, there you guys can, okay, I can see you guys. I didn't know if I was talking to the air. I can see who's all joined. Thank you guys all so much for joining here. So I wanted to pop in and talk about this eclipse season because when I was really processing the energy and looking back, because we've been taught as astrologers that eclipses happen in a 6-month cycle, right? For up to a year that these energies are moving through the collective. And I don't know if you guys remember what happened September 10th. And I believe that was the exact date because I'm double checking with my chat here, of when we had an assassination of Charlie Kirk. Okay. Now that was on a full moon Pisces eclipse. Now here we are 6 months later in its opposition, getting ready to have a full moon Virgo eclipse, which is opposite Pisces. So this, for those that are learning astrology, this is the symbol for Pisces if you're looking on the screen, and its opposition right here is Virgo. So we know that Virgo, this is where this new moon is going to be happening right now as of today. This is today's date. You guys can see February 28th. The full moon eclipse is on the 3rd, which is 3-3, and it's going to be at 12 degrees Virgo. So it's going to be right in here, 6th house, and it's going to be opposing Pisces. And historically, from what I've gathered about eclipses, it means the end of a power structure. So it represents the sun, right? Solar is the sun. So that usually in historics means those in rulership, those that are in royalty or power, right? The solar sun. And if you guys have been following my channel, excuse me, I've been putting a lot of Jordan Maxwell's content out lately, and he talks a lot about religion and banking and law and symbolism, right? He's really coming back into the field. And so what I found interesting is that eclipses denote the ending of some sort of monarch, right? The king. That's why it's the solar. So back in September, when we had this full moon eclipse in Pisces, that's when Charlie Kirk was unalived. Okay. So now what happened today as of February 28th? We learned that the gentleman, hold on, I'm looking at my phone right now, trying to get his name because I don't want to, the guy from Iran. If somebody maybe can put in the comments what's his name is. I don't want to disrespect and just not pronounce his name correctly, but yes, he was assassinated today, apparently, right? So we know that the United States went to war with Israel towards Iraq as of today. And supposedly, you know, the leader of Iran got assassinated. So I find it so interesting, again, if you're following the astrology and following cycles, that 6 months ago we had Charlie Kirk assassinated on a full moon eclipse in Pisces. And now we're here going to the wheel. So this is where it happened September 10th, right, 2025. Now, 6 months later, here we are in Virgo, almost exact opposition. We had another assassination with the president of Iran. And so to me, what we're looking at, and it really just depends on what kind of cycles you're following. It's like, are we creating our reality, or is the astrology telling us the energy that we're in right now and how it's manifesting real time? And so for those that are really deep diving into, well, what the fuck is this reality? Excuse my language, but I mean, why I am so drawn to astrology is because it's a language model to try to describe our reality, to try to describe our universe. And there's a system to it. There's a process to it. And it's all based on, to me, I call it hieroglyphics, right? These symbols tell more meaning than language and words could ever tell. And which is why I've been fascinated with looking at astrology. And I actually have an app that I'd love to share with you guys. And if you want access to it, just please reach out. Because what it's going to do is it's going to help you learn these symbols. Because once you start really deep diving into the symbology of astrology and how it's connected to what's going on cosmologically and what our ancestors have been telling us, these stories, these mythos over and over and over. You know, I think of like the Wheel of Time. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that series on Prime, Amazon Prime, but they talk about how the wheel, it never began and it never ended, but there are beginnings within the wheel, just like the triune Trinity God system, right? That every religion has, the beginning, the middle, and the end, the Father, the Mother, the Son, right? Vishnu, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, right? So there's this triune God system that has been, I guess, implemented by the powers that be that have known cosmology, because a lot of this stuff has been lost through just, some people say that we've had cataclysms and different things. If you guys ever follow Archaics, I highly recommend. He's got some really awesome details. He's a chronologist, and he talks about how this reality, there's a whole Phoenix event, and how during certain cycles, this reality, this game, this simulation, whatever language you want to use, resets itself. And so I find it interesting when you start following these patterns and these cycles, that things that in this reality are resetting themselves. So in as much as we like to have what's called predictive astrology, the Mayan calendar system, which I also follow, ended in 2012, which denoted the end of time, right? So even the way we construct time in this reality is dissolving. And so that's what a lot of us are starting to see, is that's why it's hard to have predictions based on going into no time, because as a collective, and this is what a lot of astrologers talk about, and why we've been really sort of anticipating this conjunction between Neptune and Saturn and Aries, is that none of us in our lifetimes have seen this energy, this frequency, this set of cymatic patterns within our consciousness. It's a complete reset, because it's first of all in the sign of Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. And if you guys follow astrology, I'm actually using Astro Gold is the program I'm using. And I'm not using the house system. I just went ahead and put Aries on the ascendant. It's just kind of following the chart system, right? Following it around like a time clock. And so with Aries on the ascendant here, you can see that Saturn, this is our planet of structure and government and boundaries, is right next to Neptune. This is the symbol for Neptune. And they're both within 1 degree, right? Because we look at degree points. And then we also look for the symbol for Aries. So if you guys are wanting to study astrology, and again, wanting to know what these symbols means, because these symbols carry on a whole conversation outside of language, especially if you're looking at it from a metaphysical point of view, which this channel does quite often. I'll sit and just stare at the symbol. I've done this work I've been off the matrix grid for 7 years now, since Uranus entered Taurus back in 2018. I was kind of, my soul kicked myself out of my job. I had been a bartender in hospitality for almost 30 years. And I really loved it. And during that time when I was bartending, I was actually learning astrology. So it was really cool because I would play with it. I learn some concepts, learn the symbols, learn the archetypes, and then I'd talk to people, right? Because there's people from all over the world. I worked at a beach bar in Clearwater Beach. And so I would just ask questions. I was a very inquisitive person that just wanted to know, and then I'd always, kind of on the sly, I wouldn't ask what their sign was because I thought that was cheesy, but I'd always ask their birthday, which is also a test to see if I could, pay attention to birthdays. So anyway, understanding the energies and the archetypes throughout the years, I've had real life experience getting to know people and personality types. And, thank you for joining for my post. I appreciate it. Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting. I woke up from a very intense dream state, and I normally don't get on my phone right after sleep. I try to have a practice of, getting into my body, taking some breaths, having some gratitude. But this particular morning, or grand rising rather, I woke up and I just was called to go on my phone. And the first video that came out was of Jordan Maxwell. And he was talking about, the 12 disciples of Jesus, and then the 12 constellations and the 12 zodiacal signs. And there's more constellations, but he was just referencing it to the Bible, and it really activated me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool the way this guy is speaking. He's a great storyteller. He's been studying this stuff forever. 43 years if you go and start looking at his content. He's been doing this for a long, long time. And I just felt a vibrational match to his energy, I feel like he almost called to me, right? Like I was so inspired, and I just learned a new skill on how to edit on my phone. You can screen record videos and then edit and whatever. And I did it while I was still in this like lucid dreaming state. I was still in theta. And, I wasn't really, this is so Pisces, right? I wasn't fully in my body yet, but I was really called because I was so activated and so charged by the knowledge that I wanted to share it, right? So I just kind of took the skills that I've learned, Pluto and Aquarius, right? Very much technology based. And I just wanted to share his message. I felt like this man deserved a voice, especially since he had been doing so much work learning and studying these things. And so it was a very organic post. And I spent the whole day just studying his content because I was fascinated with what he was saying. And I couldn't help but take screen shares and just, share the content. So that's how that whole process was born. And again, when I sit in meditations, because I like to talk to my ancestors, and I feel like when energy approaches me like that was for a reason, that there was something to that I needed to connect to for my own growth. And because I had studied him years ago, but he came back into the field. It's like almost like a cycle, right? Just like this whole eclipse cycle, we can see that there are certain archetypes that play themselves out. We don't know exactly how they're going to play themselves out. We don't know, the precision of it, but we do know that there's archetypical energies that are playing themselves out that have always been with us. And from what I mean by that is, for those of you who have studied Joseph Campbell's stuff, right, with the hero's journey, and he talked about how every story in our culture, in our society, follows the same hero's journey pattern. And he actually denotes it into a wheel, right? So I think of the correspondence, because so Livzenastrology, if you guys are new here too, we also come, every channel has to have a maxim. We have to have a belief system, a foundation. And Livzenastrology's foundation is that all is self, that we are all part of this collective energy field. We are connected in probably quantum ways that we were never taught we were connected. And so astrology shows us, it's almost like a cell. When I look at it, I think of like a nucleus, and I see all sort of cymatical patterns. For those of you who study harmonic astrology, it goes really into that. How everything has a sound and a vibration and cymatical frequency to it. That's why if you look at astrology, we study aspects, because that's basically how the angles, the planets are angulated towards each other. And when there's they're at certain angles with one another, then they actually have a certain relationship. They talk to each other in a certain way. And astrology calls it either a hard aspect or a harmonious aspect, right? Agreeable or a disagreeable. So the agreeables would be, your sextiles, your trines, sometimes your conjunctions. It just depends on what that is. And again, these are all terms. This is a language, guys. If you want to learn more about astrology, please reach out into my bio, because I do have a free PDF ebook that's on my site that you guys are happy. If you're wanting to just get the basics of it, you're more than welcome to download it. It's my offering to you for the community, because I feel like a lot of us who are interested in it just need to learn how to speak the language so it doesn't seem so far off or, I don't know, disconnected. Sometimes when we use very, authoritative language, it can kind of disconnect you. So I try to bring it down to the earth. Like I said, being a bartender, I also was a teacher. Actually, I've had so many careers. Geez, I'm Sag rising. So if you guys are here too, and you're joining the live, if you want to write in, if you want to interact, what are your top 3, your sun, moon, and rising? So since I'm sort of new to the TikTok community here doing the live, I'll just go ahead and share my sun, moon, and rising, and maybe we can connect that way, because the sun is where we've come to shine our energy. The moon is our memory and our emotional nature, what people don't know about us, right? What's hidden. And then the rising is where we've come to literally rise. They call it the ascendant. We've literally come to ascend our energy through that particular frequency or astrological sign. So my top 3, my sun, where I've come to shine, is in Scorpio in the 11th house. My moon, my emotional nature, what is hidden, is also in Scorpio in the 12th house, which is a Pisces house. And my ascendant, what I've come to learn, or where I've come to ascend my energy, is through the frequency of Sagittarius. So this is why I love learning. First of all, I feel like an archaeologist. I feel like a soul archaeologist in a way, right? That Scorpion energy, because I do have a deep connection to the collective energies, to connective frequencies, to not only my thoughts and energy patterns, but the people around me, right? Deeply empathic, deeply psychic. And that's just always been with me. And so for me, learning astrology has been such a gift, because it's given me a language to describe what the fuck I was feeling and seeing and sensing, and in a really articulate way, because it was just like, it's like chaos. How do you speak on chaotic things, or things that are, again, meta, beyond the physical? It's been quite a journey, but it's become a passion, because it's really, again, giving me voice to express these deeply intimate, personal, sometimes shadowy concepts that have been mulling around in my psyche and in my body for since childhood. But it's given me a language to describe it now. And then with the use of AI, I'll sit and integrate it and talk about it and have it look at the, it's given me a lot of effectiveness in, as far as like looking at the aspects, because this takes time to learn this, guys. Like I said, it's been, my first astrology class was back in 2005, and I've been studying ever since. You'll always be a student of astrology if you get into it, because there's just always so much to learn, right? It's never ending. And so this is sort of the beginning of this live journey with Livzenastrology, talking about the current transits and how it relates to what's going on with what's being revealed now with Saturn and Neptune and Aries, right? Aries also has to do with children. It's the first house, babies. It's the first sign of the zodiac. So if you think of like the lifetime of a human, Aries is the beginning point. It's when we're babies, and then Taurus is when we're toddlers, and you go around the wheel here. Gemini is when we're in young grade school. Cancer is when we're like tweens, right? Leo is like when we're in high school, graduating. Virgo is like when we're after graduation in our early 20s. Libra is like we're mid-20s going into 30s. Scorpio, we're going into our 40s. In Sagittarius, we're going into our elders. That's why Sagittarius and this higher octave here, Capricorn, that's why they consider it's the elder. Capricorn's ruled by Saturn. It'd be like our 50s, 60s. Aquarius would be, going towards the end of our years, right? And finally culminating in Pisces, which is the end of time, right? The end of this chapter, the end of this particular cycle. So astrology follows the time clock of the human. So with this particular conjunction that everybody's been talking about, that's very significant, that we've never seen before in this lifetime, it's starting a whole new cycle, it's almost like we're being reborn, right? Not from the religious context, but from like a springtime, right? It goes into the decomposition. And then now in the spring, that's why spring Aries is considered the first day of the zodiac, or first day of the year. It's not in December. If you're following, again, the seasons, the first day is spring, right? Spring equinox, which is coming up in March 20th. So that's the beginning of a whole new cycle. Excuse me, guys, I've got this cough. And it's in the sign Aries. So just a little backdrop, again, setting cycles and patterns. Neptune and Saturn usually meet together every 36 years, right? That's their cycle. They come together every 36 years in a particular sign, right? But we've never seen it in the sign at 0 degrees, which it was 0 degrees exactly February 20th, in Aries. That's why people are so, I guess, expectant, not knowing what to expect, leaning into the void, leaning into the unknown, because we've never seen this particular energy. And what I'm seeing from the collective and just from my own like awakening, it's like, shit, everything that we thought we knew about anything is wrong. Like everything. Like I almost feel like we've had our own internal 9/11 and we're all at ground zero. Everything is up for grabs as far as what we have learned from the foundation of this country, the United States. I'm currently in the Northern Hemisphere in the United States. The foundation of religion and our banking system and our education system, our healthcare. I mean, everything is connected to this group, this already established one world order, if you will. And even astrology might be tied into that shit. I mean, at this point, I'm willing to disregard everything I think I know, because it seems like the more that's being revealed, especially with these files and with consciousness and AI and all these different tools that are, it's like we're being bombarded. We're going into warp speed. Things are happening so fast. So, going through my awakening, going back to 2018 when I got off the grid, if you will, and I had to quit bartending because I just couldn't be in that consciousness anymore. It was really evolving. Just really going, questioning my life. My son had just graduated high school and he was my purpose for a long time. I was a single mom. So, a lot of my purpose in life was dissolving. And again, this was happening in Taurus and that was transiting my 6th house. So that's my daily work and service to other people, right? I couldn't be of service the way I had been. And yet I was scared to follow this astrological path because I didn't feel grounded enough in it. Like I said, it's never ending. You never feel like you learn enough, because there's so much to learn. There's so much to know with it. But at the same time, we'll never know anything. So, it's been this 7-year process of, what do they say? The body changes and morphs and transmutes every 7 years. Like the person you were, even on a cellular level, who you were 7 years ago is going to shift and change. Well, that's exactly what happened for all of us when this ingress from Uranus into Taurus went into Taurus from Aries. And so we all felt it, literally our monetary systems, because you think about what Taurus rules. It rules the 2nd house, finance, values, what you value, beauty. It's ruled by Venus, what you love, right? So all that was up for grabs. And I could no longer bartend, but I knew that I still loved astrology. I just didn't know how I was going to share it. And I didn't want to do it in a mundane way because I've also got 3rd house Aquarius. I wanted to be different, unique, myself, my own voice, yada, yada, yada. And so, but I didn't know how I was going to do that, right? So I said, okay, I'm not going to live off the system anymore. So what am I going to do? So I've been basically nomadic for the last 7 years. And in this nomadicism, it's been almost like I want to say like live a monk life in a way. I really, I haven't had a personal relationship in over 20 years. And that was on purpose. I was single on purpose because I didn't want to create karma in my relationships. It's a whole nother story. I gotta let Scorpio 12th house, man. I had to clean up all that dark shit. But that's okay. I mean, that was also part of the journey, was about learning to embrace your dark, embrace your shadow, right? This is also very Scorpionic. And Pluto is ruled by Scorpio, and right now it's in Aquarius. What does Aquarius rule? Well, collective groups, organizations, rules, all 11th house matters, right? So we have to see the shadow of every community, group, organization that humanity has set up. We had to see and witness the shadow that's been underneath it, that's been in the, hidden. And so now that it's being revealed, we have to have a reckoning. This is a reckoning within us of what we'd allowed, within our consciousness, of what we allowed within our education systems, in our bodies, whatever injections, whatever, that we trusted the people in authority. And we're having to really, it's a maturation process. It's kind of like, I don't know how you guys felt when you found out there was no Santa Claus. It's very much similar to that, right? And so especially if you've been following religious institutions and now you're finding out, a lot of these were contrived by people of power that were actually opposite of the good of humanity, right? These people that have put themselves in spiritual positions of power have actually done crimes against humanity. And this is something we're all having to wrap our brains around. And not only our brains, but we're having to heal our hearts, because this is Pisces season. So Pisces is about the heart. It's about forgiveness and compassion, but we've got to go through the righteous rage. This is where the Neptune and Saturn and Aries, because Aries is the warrior, right? So anywhere we've been at war with ourselves, this is literally showing up as war, right? Because I'm going to be sensitive about this, but if you do still follow the Germanic good or God, right? God is good, which is good. He's a war god. Again, look at the Bible and whatever your take is in the Bible. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just, from my own experience and from my own deep diving, I was told by my ancestors, because I don't pray to anything outside of myself anymore. In the word pray, P-R-E-A, right? There's predators and preys. And so I'm not going to go to any temple to pray. What I'm doing is I'm going and sitting in stillness in nature and learning to listen, even if it's to my own heartbeat and to what the plants have to say, what the tree has to say. It's grounding, right? It's getting into a whole new frequency outside the noise of collective confusion. And this is what Saturn and Neptune and Aries is asking us as personal responsibility. You don't know what you don't know, but when you know it, when you know better, you do better. But if you don't know it, you don't know what needs to be shifted. Well, this is turning into the age of knowing. This is Pluto and Aquarius. We need to know what's been hidden underneath the excrement, if you will, of, what needs to be composted. And there's been a lot that's been rotting in our collective, systems, organizations, programs, and that's what needs to shift. But we got to do that internally first. You can't change anything outside of you, really. If you're going into quantum, it's a vibrational universe. So if you want a different reality and frequency as a collective, we have all got to agree to face and move towards love and away from fear. Because, a lot of mystics talk about in this metaphysical realm, there's only two energies in polarity, right? And this, if you look at the yin and yang symbol, and the yin and yang is representing to me in the metaphysical realm, either love or fear. One of those two oppositions, right? The polarity, masculine or feminine. And I'm not talking gender, masculine. If we're bioelectrical magnetic beings, biology wise, then the magnetic parts of us are feminine and the electric parts of us are masculine. So that's what I mean when I'm looking at the gender. And that's tied into Hermeticism. And you guys can look into that, Hermetic principles. I actually did a post on that too. You guys can check that out. And how I see energy, because it's everything's constantly in motion, right? We're constantly moving, we're constantly vibrating, we're constantly creating cymatical patterns. But if we've been in a dissonant energy that has created confusion or disharmony or dissonance, right? Because that's why I say too, we've also been in a frequency war with all our electronics and all this shit that they're trying to do with our body. Check out also too Sabrina Wallace if you haven't checked her out. She talks about how our bodies and our, because we're basically bodies of electricity. And if you don't know how your electric system works, then somebody can tap into your electric system and use you as a living battery. I mean, gosh, the Matrix, all these different programs and things. If I call it conscious movie watching, if you watch these programs with your third eye on, you just see it. You're just like, oh, fuck, it's everywhere, right? But what I'm trying to do is, use the astrology and my own gnosis to get out of whatever kind of binding that we put ourselves under and whatever kind of consent that we're giving this reality, these controllers of reality, by putting it in front of us. They put it in plain sight. But if we're giving consent, it's because we're watching and we're seeing all the imbalances, but we don't know what to do about it yet. And so this is where we're having to process righteous rage. This is also Neptune and Saturn and Aries, right? And everybody's going through this and none of us have gone through it before. So, my advice to myself, to you guys, for you guys that are here, that join, that are popping in and out to say hello, thank you so much for being here. Just be gentle on yourself, man. Just be grace. Just show yourself grace, because we didn't know. None of us knew. We all got duped in this reality, some way, some form. And so we're all having to come to terms with it. But what in this Pisces season, it really is just asking us to step back from the fray and rise above the noise and get into our practices, get into all of our 12 house matters. It's very Pisces, right? Your yoga, your breathing exercises, your meditations, whatever it is that helps your nervous system to feel safe. Whatever you can do to be grounded, right? To get those negative ions, even the language, right? We think negative is bad, but it's not. Negative ions are actually good for the body. So again, we have to be looking at these inversions, because through the spells, through the language, we've been spell casting things, an inverted reality to ourselves unknowingly. But, it's like tricking a kid, right? Again, Santa Claus. Oh, Santa Claus gave you that, and there's no fucking Santa. I'm sorry. There's nobody's going to come out and bring you these gifts. It was always mom and dad, right? And this is where I think we have to really, as a collective, go, fuck, why are we still telling the Santa story? Why are we still telling this God story? I don't know. Again, no disrespect to anybody, but I've just really come to terms with the divine creator is within me. Source energy is within me. It's outside of me. It's in this plasmic field all around. I am not disconnected, never has been, never will be. Will always be a part of this. I'm just starting to remember. We're in retrograde season. Anything to do with retro is redo, reorganize, restructure, rethink, right? Remember that we've never been separate from source. It's just been the illusion. We bought a ticket to this gosh darn show, and quite frankly, I want my money back. Anyway, I don't know where it's coming from, but okay, so hopefully you guys are able to hear me. Again, I'm going to be going live more often. This is fun for me. I feel like I'm coming out of a cocoon phase, coming out of the hermit mode phase. I've been on this 7-year sojourn of just really learning to go inward, really to decipher my own energy, right? You go into any temple, every temple will say, know thyself. So that's what astrology has afforded me, is just a mechanism and a process and a program, an understanding on how to know myself more and to love myself. Because when you can know yourself and love yourself and accept yourself, then you can accept others in that same frequency. So it's a journey, guys. This is a process. There's really no end to it. It's just, we're just in the middle of this journey. So I would invite you. I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to be landing to do the lives. I've been kind of just following my guidance and when I'm inspired to do so. Although I have committed, I've got that Sag rising, so it's very hard for me to commit. But I have committed to my community on Wednesdays at 3:30 p.m. I like working with 3 3s. And Wednesdays is a Mercury day, right? It's a communication day. So I'm just trying to follow my own patterns and the pattern energetics, of the planets and of the days of the week. Actually, the moments of the strong, his fucking language. Anyway, I even I don't even say good morning anymore because it's like, good morning. Why am I? Mourning is like when you go to a funeral and you're mourning somebody. What the hell? I don't want to start off my day mourning. I want to start off my day joyful. So that's why I heard somebody say grand rising, and I really like that, right? So that's what I've been slowly but incrementally watching my language, watching my spell casting, paying attention, just being very present as much as I can, moment by moment. And the astrology, just really watching it play out, and just pattern recognition is fascinating. And again, if you guys are interested in astrology and you're just getting started in your journey, please check out the link in my bio. There's free content there. There's a free ebook there that you guys can download. You can learn these symbols. You can learn what their words mean. I keep it very simple. I also used to be a second grade teacher in North Carolina. So I say, I try to learn like I'm a second grader, because that's how fundamental and going back to the basics I know I need to go in this reality. Because if everything I thought was real is not real, then I've again got to go back to ground zero, having a 9/11 moment, right? Everything has fallen. So I got to see what's left and what rings true. And it's a practice. And I would invite you guys to just, practice yourself, and whatever tool, calls to you right now, whether it's the Gene Keys from Richard Rudd, whether it's human design, whether it's astrology, whether it's tarot, whether it's oracle, whatever it is, because we're in Pisces season. So it's about the metaphysical aspect. It's the parts of us we can't see, but we have to feel it. And so I would just invite you to feel your way through this. We're not going to have an answer right away. We're in retrograde, right? Just go back and redream the bigger dream, because Pisces rules imagination and dreams in its agreeable state. So dream a new dream for yourself. Dream a new dream for humanity, because those in powers have been dreaming for us. If those in Hollywood spell casting, they've been creating the dreams, and we've just been, allowing it and just consenting to it because we didn't know any better. We were children. We had children's consciousness. But now with this conjunction with Saturn and Neptune, man, it's a maturation process. So if we know how powerful we are in our creative abilities to imagine, I am sick of imagining war and gloom and doom and bullshit. All the work, we've seen it. Humanity's worst fears have come to fruition. How much did we participate in that through our consciousness, through these egregors, been feeding these visions of humanity? Personally, I'm done with it. So that's why it's been a very integrative process to only follow people that make sense. Right now it's been using a lot of discernment. I'm very particular on the content that I consume, with the food I eat. Just, being very present with the energy, not trying to gloom and doom or be in this, what is it when people are constantly worried about stuff? Catastrophizing. Yeah, I'm just trying to stay out of that, right? Because Pisces, that's also the disagreeable aspect of Pisces is fear. It's fear of everything, and irrational fear. And so we just got to kind of catch ourselves when we find ourselves in these irrational fear patterns, which Pisces is going to invariably bring up, because it also has to do with the 12th house, our subconscious or unconscious beliefs, which we know if we have been programmed since. If anybody here has watched Disney, it started from ground zero, from a very, what is the adage? Give me the man before 7 and or give me the boy before the age of 7 and I'll show you the man. And that's what they've done. They've had us all from the moment get-go, from the first injection when we were babies to right now. So we just have to we have to rectify that within ourselves. And if it's time to be pissed off, be pissed off. But you channel that energy in a positive direction. This Aries energy, also first house, go for a workout, man. Channel that energy towards your creativity. It's also Pisces. Pisces is creativity. It's how can you channel the grief and the suffering into something that actually will benefit humanity, because everything is corroded. Everything's crumbling. It's falling apart. So this is a clarion call to the fellow builders out here who realize who've probably been in this shit for a minute. I've been studying this shit since 2020. It's been horrific, and it's been hard to integrate and process this stuff alone. In a way, I'm kind of relieved that humanity understands what's going on, because I don't feel so isolated and we can actually talk about these things. But for those of us who have had like 5 or 6 years to integrate it, now we're ready to build, right? So I don't know what that looks like. I don't have all the answers. I just like to engage in conversation, higher octave conversation, where we can talk about these things from, again, a more mature vantage point. And that's what astrology also offers through the language, is just a periphery and a way to describe reality that's very neutral. It doesn't charge the field, right? It's like learning to describe a color, right? This is just the color blue, and this is how blue operates. This is the color red, and this is how red operates. So keeping it from that perspective is kind of where this channel is going. And again, I'll be here every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. for another live. That'll be my constant. And then just periodically, if you guys are interested in this kind of content, just check me out periodically, because I don't know, I'm going on inspired when I feel it, learning to be my feminine, which is, less structured, a little more chaotic and free flowing. And when I feel intuitively like I have something to say, where my nervous system feels safe to come on here, then I'll do so. But again, thank you so much if you're new here. And I'm really, why does my time stop again in my sleep? Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so I'm reading some of the comments here because I'm just learning how to. So why does my time stop again in my sleep? Well, for me, we're going into no time. So, I call it, when I awake, this is the waking dream. To me, this is, life is but a dream in some regards, being philosophical Pisces. But yeah, we're transcending time, because, I used to, when I was in the grind, 9 to 5, whatever, I'd always try to be in bed by a certain time and be up at, crack of dawn and work out. And you know what? I don't do that anymore. I've curated a life for myself. Now, mind you, I've been off the grid and not been really playing with money for the last 7 years. So I've limited to myself purposely, so that I could not be so distracted and actually do the internal work. Because I used to be very distracted and, bartender, high energy. I used to love it, right? It was a very wonderful career for me. I love people. I love high energy. I love movement. I love adrenaline. But yeah, when I had that sort of dark night of the soul, and my son graduated. Oh, and back then, I have to go into another story. I don't want to go too long here, but I actually had some medicine journeys with DMT and some mushroom. I've been working with that years ago. And that's when I realized, I'm like, oh shit, I can't live in this reality. This thing is corroded, man. Like I just saw so clearly, like, oh my God, we live in this weird reality that I can't be in. I just didn't want to be in it, because I'm not playing this game. And I had struggled so long as a single mom, was worried about money and survivals. And I said, fuck that, dude. You know what? I'm not surviving. If I'm not meant to be here, deuces. I mean, that's kind of how it was. I was like, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to be happy. If not, I'm ready to go. Because, Scorpio 12th house, I don't believe in death. I don't see death the way we've been taught to see death. I never have. So I always felt so different, because I just always knew that it was just a fucking illusion. Like, this is just a weird dream, a weird game. And so I didn't want to play that game anymore. So I got off that system, and I've been free floating around, taking odd jobs here and there. I'm actually staying at a friend's house that they're getting ready to sell it. So I've actually been here for the last year, rent free. I tell you, my divine creator takes care of me, because I've been staying in my integrity. I've been living my life on purpose and as present as I can be. And I committed too, because I understood. I've also got Capricorn second house. The most thing that I value more than money is just a tool. The thing that I value more than anything is my time. Again, I've got that Capricorn second house for me. You can always get money back, and you can always get things back, but you can never get your time. So that was another thing. I said, I'm not, if I have to exchange my time for money, I'm not doing it. I'd rather not have money. And so I didn't. but somehow money always showed up right when I needed it. I never lacked. It's not like I didn't go on vacation or didn't have a good time or eat in good restaurants, it just always showed up for me. And so that's why I'm saying this game, this reality is not what we've been told. If you just stand true with who you are and just, know thyself and know what game you'll play and what you won't play, I'm telling you, the universe will step up and will show you and will give you a new frequency. If it's all an illusion, isn't time not that scarce? True, because we're infinite beings. But in this game, it's limited, right? Because the way it's been set up. So I've deep dive with that too. We are definitely infinite beings, and we have a beginning, a middle, and an ending cycle within this realm. Because to me, even in the word finite, think of infant, right? Infinite, and then finite. So time is a finite game of an eternal being, if that makes any sense. So in this game, in this particular timeline loop, we've agreed to play the game of time. And so with that, time is ruled by Saturn, which is limitation. So we played the game where we're basically unlimited beings playing a limitation game with ourselves, in my perspective. But again, I don't have all the answers. It's just how, I process things I don't understand. I try to be creative with it. And I always, again, I tend to have a Pollyanna. I guess it's all that Sagittarius. I do have Venus Sag first house. My ascendant Sag. I've got stellium in Sag, honestly. But I tend to have more of an idealist perspective, in that if this is just a game, you always need a boss figure in a game, right? You got to battle the boss figure. And somehow collectively, we've created this horrendous fucking boss figure. And guess what? How we fight him is not going to war. It's actually going inward and learning how to, I know this is going to sound really out there, but it's a metaphysical channel, so let's go out there. I see it as almost like microbes in the body, because I've really done the deep dive too with Hermeticism and as above, so below, as within, so without. And so what if there's these parasites that have been feeding part of us in our body, and that's what the battle is, right? The parasites have been controlling the organs, which are basically like archons, whatever. And so we've just been that's why we just got to clean out. If you just clean out your gut, if we all just collectively quit eating glyphosate, which is basically fucking antibiotics, and quit killing off our gut biome, we learn how to get along and harmonize. That's a whole nother deep dive. Anyway, I don't want to go there tonight, but all right. So I felt many times. I feel you. I'm into astrology. I felt that, right? Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for your confirmation again. It's just kind of fun learning how to jump on here and just, share some perspective. I mean, none of us are right and none of us are wrong. We're all just trying to figure this shit out the best that we possibly can. And I would just ask myself, first of all, for grace during this process, and ask you guys for grace for one another and for myself, and for anyone who's deciding to start sharing content, maybe something that's been in the deep consciousness recesses of our minds that we just didn't have a voice or didn't think we had anyone, to talk to about these things. But I feel like this can of worms, this Pandora's box, if you will, has been open and everything's being revealed. There's all kinds of entities that's being unleashed from Pandora's box. But, in the mythos of Pandora's box, the last thing that was in that box was hope. And so I hope that this conversation finds you well. I hope that you can join me again whenever we're called to reconnect, as we're free flowing into this resonant energy vibrational match universe. I'm so grateful for you guys. Yeah. I'm not going to have all the answers. These are just kind of sort of cosmic explorations. And, maybe we can do it more Socratic style, right? It's like, let's just ask questions. Maybe there really is no answer, but I think we just need to ask better questions. It's funny, I deep dived into the word question, and I break it apart. And question is the quest, eye on. So if you want a better quest in life, if you want to go on to a better quest or a better journey, you got to ask better questions. And so this is what this channel is hoping to do, is just ask better questions and just share some tidbits from, what I have gathered along my humble journey, and just try to interweave it into some wisdom, best we can. So anyway, yeah, there's no hell. Yeah, I believe that. And dimensions I see is like I go to my room and I see the dimensions like a square. I just look at my corners and that's dimensions. Like I just see things differently, and I didn't always know how to explain it. And we talk about multiple dimensions. I'm like, yeah, I have multiple dimensions in my room. And working with mushroom medicine has taught me that, actually, working with multidimensionality. And hell is the trap earth. Well, it's interesting because earth, if you reconfigure the letters, it's heart. And so hell and heaven exists based on your frequency. It's all right here. And because I've been in both, and I've been everywhere in between. Again, I've been baptized in 4 different religions. I've been on this spiritual journey since I was a very young child. And I've been through some very interesting heavenly realm journeys, and some very hellacious, traumatizing hell realms. And so it's all right here. And so I think as a conscious being, I'm realizing, I get to have choice now that I'm cognizant of it. I get to choose what my reality contains. And it's based on where I'm vibrating. It's based on where I put my focus, right? Because we are free will beings for the most part. But all right, family. So it's been a little bit under an hour. I think this was a really good first conversation together. I'm so grateful everybody that's here. Let's see, you need to raise your spirituality and your Kundalini. Yeah, to me, it's another thing too. Kundalini, as I've seen it, is like an energy wave, and I connect a lot to the ocean. So I don't have to tell the ocean tides to come; they just do, right? And so I think of like a flower or a plant or a tree. When it's ready to bloom, it's going to bloom. So I feel like the human ego wants to control, thinks that we can raise this or do that. And yeah, we can do some alchemy, right? Like cook a meal in the kitchen. You can have some control. But for the most part, in the metaphysical things, it's going to happen when it happens. And it's always going to be the perfect time. And since we're transcending time, every now moment is the perfect now time. Because when you're in the now, N-O-W, you're in the know, K-N-O-W, if that makes any sense. So keep being in the now, and you'll always keep being in the know. And again, I try to, since I started awakening, I actually became dyslexic because that movie Percy Jackson, when he went into the museum and he couldn't read fucking Greek, or he couldn't read he couldn't read regular English, but then he went into the museum and saw Greek and he could read it. And that's what astrology has done, just studying the symbols so long. I see words completely different. I immediately go into breakdown etymology mode because I understand the language. I understand the spell casting that's been placed in this realm. So I've taught my brain to dissect the words immediately, like what's really being said here. So it's been kind of a fun game I've been playing with myself with words, but anyway, all right, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. I've been trying to say bye. I'm having so much fun. I'm so glad you guys you're here and you're connected. And am I vegan? What's funny? Okay, I'll go about 5 more minutes here. That'll be a full hour. I don't call myself vegan because I hate labels. That's just something. Who is it? Is it Nietzsche or somebody said, you label me, you negate me? Kierkegaard, one of the philosophers. Because the minute you label something, you put it in a box. So I don't eat meat because I actually, again, I've been playing in the realms of many different religions. And I always was fascinated by the 40 days of Lent by Catholicism, even though I'm not Catholic. My mom says I am because I was baptized Catholic. And apparently if you're baptized as a baby Catholic, you're always Catholic to her. But to me, I don't identify with Catholicism at all. However, I thought I was really deep diving into this back in 2010. I was really deep diving into the concept of sacrifice, right? And the idea that if you want to have something in your life, you've got to give something up. to make room for something else, right? It's like alchemy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. You got to take energy, you got to move it around, you got to alchemize, you got to create something else, right? So for me, I said, well, I want something different in my life. And at the time, I was really into wine, dark chocolate, and eating meat. Right? I always used to love to make nice meal and drink a glass of wine while I was making a nice Italian meal, whatever. And then so this Lent was coming around, and I had to give up something for 40 days. And I thought, well, I'm not going to give up wine and I'm not going to give up chocolate. So I'm going to go ahead and give up meat because that was the easiest thing of those 3 items. That was, part of my wheelhouse to give up, just to, journey with the idea of sacrifice. I just really wanted to step into that, know what that is. And, the side effect was after I quit eating meat, my face cleared up. I lost some weight. I started sleeping better. Like I had all these benefit side effects that my body was really liked not having meat in my diet. So that's pretty much why I don't eat meat. And then another reason, which kind of came about organically, is that I got so sensitive energetically. I got all that 12th house stuff, Scorpio. I could feel everything. I was getting deeply empathic, and all my clairs were coming on. My clairaudience, clairsentience, whatever the other clairs are. I can't think right now. I'm getting tired. But anyway, I could feel the energy of the animal, like if it suffered. And I didn't want to put that in my body because then I would start suffering. I'd start feeling depressed. I mean, I was getting really sensitive, and I'm still very sensitive. So I have to be careful when I go to grocery stores, man. I get in and out because I have this affinity to living things. And if it runs from you, it probably doesn't want to be eaten. That's why I think about plants. They kind of stay stationary. I always ask permission too and thank them. I have Native American background too. I have this thing about honoring, about creating the sacred in everything you do, which is so opposite of this debased reality that has been surrounding us for who knows how long. And that's why I've never really felt connected or like I belonged here, which I'm sure a lot of you never did either. If you're on this channel or you're connected right here, we've always felt different and it's like we didn't belong here. And so now a lot of us are like, all right, now we know why we didn't fucking belong here, because this fucking reality has been inverted. It's bullshit. It debases us as beings, men and women, not just women, but men and women. And I've seen it. I was a bartender for a long, long time. And I've seen I've had so many conversations and pretty much seen every type of human experience there is to have. I bartended at funerals and weddings and events and you name it. And I've got to see humans interact with other humans, sober or otherwise. And I'm telling you, we have more in common than we do separate. But if you follow the system and you watch TV and you watch all the fucking media, all they want to talk about is division. And all I ever saw was connection. Yes, the fruit is because the tree gives freely the fruit. That makes sense to me. Shit, I don't even know if we're even supposed to be eating. I think we're probably moving towards breatharianism, honestly, but that's just something I was playing with too. If you guys ever followed Elatom Elohim on YouTube, he's a really cool dude. He's this African American man who's been breatharian for like 30 something years now. He's been on the journey. He's got a lot of deep wisdom. Oh man, he drops some serious knowledge. Elotom Elohim. Check him out on the YTube. He's incredible. So yeah, I don't even know if we're supposed to be eating. So I don't even know what this vessel is really. No, he's actually pretty muscular. He works out. He's got a lot of energy because he gets direct. He knows how to integrate. So the way he talks about it is like going from a car vehicle that runs on gas to becoming, what is it? When you're half gas, half battery, like the preludes, what are they called? Hybrids. So you have to train your body from like eating to becoming hybrid, then to just going on to solar. And it's a process. So it takes a long time, but he's been on the committed journey. But the body, I mean, we don't even know what this vessel is capable of. We've been dumbed down so much and told and and really controlled on how we perceive ourselves as less than and always looking for a higher something being outside of us. No, we've got all these gifts within us. And we just have to believe it. This is Pisces season. You have to go into belief, into knowing. Belief is just a stepping stone to knowing, in my opinion, in my experience. Because once you know something, you don't have to believe it. And you don't have to prove your point if you know something and you see somebody else arguing with you people just argue for their beliefs. But when you know something, you don't argue. You know it and you hear somebody else saying something different, okay. It doesn't really bother you because you know different, right? Because you've experienced something different. You come from that inner knowing. Know thyself. But if you see people in their beliefs and they're struggling and they're arguing for the beliefs, they're still just trying to figure it out. And I give grace for that too, because I was there too. And I'm still am in some ways. And so, all right, guys. Well, it's been over an hour. And this has been really fun for me. Thank you again so much for being here. For just connecting to this channel. And I hope to see you again when we are vibrational mats. Again, I will be here connected on Wednesdays, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because that feels good to me. And then I'll just do pop-on lives whenever I'm so inclined to do so. So yeah, thank you for joining the conversation and thank you for engaging. Anybody that's here that's put their energy, again, thank you for spending your time, because that's the most valuable resource we have. So if you're here and you spent your time, thank you. That I'm honored, and I hope to see you guys again. All right, family. So much love. Talk to you soon. Be well. All right. Bye.